All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble, of course, where I do see chat is moving and the video was loading, so it should be perfectly fine. Lots of news today. Actually, a couple of extra entries here. Iranian lawmaker claims. That headline is slightly misleading, but we'll get into the nitty-gritty about that, so no worries. Biden is withholding intel on Hamas targets from the Israelis right now. That's going to go over real well, by the way, once the average American realizes that that's a thing when they read the news today, or if they pay attention to this live stream. Never thought I'd see such a thing, actually, from the United States government. I don't necessarily care about Israel, per se. I'm Team America, not Team Israel or Palestine. But if you're going to waffle around and straddle that fence, it kind of makes sense not to do this sort of thing. But Joe Biden, he didn't get the memo. We've got Joost, kicked from Eurovision, actually, Joost Klein. He's from Friesland originally, Netherlands entry into the Eurovision. And they canned him at the last moment, right in the finals. And I think that they did that because they were afraid that he would win. And he seems to hate the fucking legacy media. So, he's pretty cool. We've got Blinken on Gaza. Blinken delivers strongest public rebuke of Israel yet. Get out of Gaza. Blinken also directly addressed the U.S. withholding high payload bombs to Israel. So low payload, high payload, they're all on hold at the moment. How wonderful. We've got new polling, new state polling showing Trump is way ahead in most of these states. The Nevada polling is insane. I have a feeling that that's an outlier from New York Times Siena, but if it's remotely close to the truth, Biden is going to have a real hard time. Man who received first pig kidney transplant has died. It was unrelated to the fact that it was a pig kidney. He had other problems, and they're advancing rapidly with genomic sequencing and gene editing on animal parts to try to put them in human beings. The idea is that with pigs and chimps and a few other animals, the hearts and kidneys and things like that are similar enough so that they can operate within a human body, probably for the same span that a human transplant would. This would take huge stress off the transplant market and be a great thing, actually. So we'll go into that. Suddenly, there aren't enough babies. The whole world is alarmed. I would, advise just fucking more often, but people think that that's, impossible for some reason. I've talked to people who think that there's white demographic replacement, and I'm like, okay, well, then have 3 or 4 white babies. And they say, well, that's unrealistic. Yeah, it's more realistic that you're going to start a race war, dude, Rufus. And also, lesbians reach orgasm more often than heterosexual women. Our sex scripts explain why. I can think of a better explanation than anything that the New York Post is likely to formulate, by the way. Anyway, got lots of news to cover today. Clone pig babies, says Leo Schiltz. You can. Mike the Womp. Hi, Tarl. I hope you, your family, and garden are well. Clank mofos. Yes, all very well, especially the garden, actually. It's really, I pumped it full of blood meal for nitrogen, azomite for micronutrients, and also some of that Poseidon's Harvest, which is just a general low-yield fertilizer. Everything's buffing right up, including a few of the plants that were a little bit on the anemic side. They obviously needed more nitrogen. They're starting to green up really well now, so they'll recover and do just fine. Had that problem before. Usually with seed starter and stuff, you get a little bit of nitrogen deficiency depending on your feeding schedule. Once you put them outside, you can just douse them with whatever you want. And I've got nettle water out there. That's processing as we speak. I've got it open right now to help evaporate some of the actual water in it because I don't want to cut down all of the nettles and just stuff it full. I should be able to get 5 or 6 good waterings for the entire garden out of that. RGB, happy Monday, Clank Nation. Yes, indeed. Keep in mind, also, later on, I will go live with the quartering at 5:30 p.m. as well. So 2 streams on Mondays and Wednesdays. Once I'm in Europe, it'll be a little bit more difficult to keep up that schedule because I'll be going live at 11:30 or thereabouts till 1 in the morning. But I'm willing to take one for the team. Might be a little bit more low energy at that point, but we'll make it work somehow. First news story of the day. Iranian lawmaker claims Iran possesses nuclear weapons. Adashtani justified Iran's purported possession of nuclear weapons by arguing that it enhances deterrence capabilities, which is true, particularly in the face of perceived threats from the US and Israel, some of which are explicit. The revelation comes amid ongoing international scrutiny over Iran's nuclear program and its compliance with the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, commonly known as the Iran nuclear deal, the one that Obama minted and has been completely ignored. Ahmad Bakhshayes Ardestani, a member of Iran's parliament, made the assertion in an interview with the Iran-based outlet Rayodad 24, as reported by Fox. In my opinion, we have achieved nuclear weapons, but we do not announce it, Ardestani was quoted as saying. He further elaborated that while possessing nuclear bombs aligns with Iran's policy, the country's official stance remains within the framework of the JCPOA. Now, let's investigate this. This is similar to Israel's nuclear ambiguity doctrine. We know due to the 1984 declassified Pentagon report, that was declassified in 2018 or so, Israel does have some nuclear weapons, between 50 and 100 of them roughly. They're in the half megaton to megaton range. They're modern weapons. They're not the kind that will destroy an entire county, but they will level a city. We know that. We've got evidence of it. We know that nuclear triggers were stolen. Nuclear material was amassed. They probably tested a weapon off the coast of South Africa back in the 1980s. We know all of this. We know it objectively. With Iran, this could be an attempt to simply dissuade others from attacking them by saying, okay, we've got a handful of atomic weapons. We're capable of delivering them, so leave us alone. It could be that. Or it could be that this lawmaker knows something that we don't know. It's entirely possible that they do have a handful of nukes. Either way, what I say is I don't care. I don't want to go to a war with Iran. I don't have a problem with them having nuclear weapons. I don't see the threat. I mean, what are they going to do? Nuke the United States with 2 or 3 smaller end nuclear weapons that they can't necessarily even miniaturize for missiles? I don't think that it's a threat to us. I think it's a threat to the surrounding nations. Israel would be one of them. Potentially Saudi Arabia, of course, Shia versus Sunni, maybe Turkey or something like that. It's not a threat to us. It's not a threat to Western Europe. It's not a threat to the core of hegemony of Western civilization. So I don't personally care. I have a feeling this is bluster, and this is a lawmaker saying, well, to my understanding, we might have these weapons, but if we had them, we wouldn't talk about it on TV. That's really what it looks like to me. So I'm not too concerned, but it's being played up big time in the legacy media. They're playing it up because they really want a war with Iran. They want to kill millions of people for oil and for profit, just like they have before. They did that in Iraq. You know, you remember Saddam Hussein supposedly was trying to get nukes. We did that with Afghanistan. Supposedly dirty bomb material was going to end up in the hands of Al-Qaeda and or the Taliban, and they were going to use it against us as well. These things never actually happened, not without good reason, because it would be suicidal on a socio-political scale. In my metric, Tehran does not have nuclear weapons. They're bloviating about this because they want to dissuade attack, and that's really nothing more than that. So I wouldn't worry too much, but I'm sure that the legacy media will tell you to be worried. Mike the Wop, hi Tarl, I hope you, I already did that one. The Happy Plague Doctor, just planted my garden this weekend. We should have a garden contest this year. Excellent. Yeah, I'll be doing more garden updates over time. Joel Castillo. There are no laws against the Assaultron, Batman. Clank, 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 clank. Sassmaster531. At just under 6 months to Election Day, what are your odds of Trump winning? Also, will Dems hold a physical DNC in Chicago with all protesting now? They've thought about switching the venue at the last minute, actually, to a different building to try to prevent a 1968 situation. I don't know whether they'll do that or not. They might just hope for the best and say, well, it'd look a little bit odd if we switch the convention spot. I would say at the moment, Trump has an 85% chance of winning re-election, regardless of whether he's imprisoned or not. In fact, if he's imprisoned, oddly enough, his odds might rise. I don't think that the magical bullet against Trump is going to be putting him in prison. If anything, it'll become his Elba. You know, Rikers Island becomes his new Elba, and he goes Napoleon mode or something. He gets elected anyway, and then he emerges from the prison, and he's like, I fucked you in the ass, and it'll be really, really funny. I imagine that would be quite a sight to behold. I'm almost hoping that it happens. I'm hoping that in October or something, they actually are crazy enough to imprison him, and he wins anyway. And then he comes out of prison and says, screw you, and then breaks all the toys. If anything was going to cause him to actually make better hiring decisions and break all the toys and go all in, it would be to imprison him. And I think that they think for some reason that that might be a good idea. I don't know that it is. I think strategically speaking, they don't really know what's going on. Next news story. This one is strange. Again, I'm not Team Israel. I'm not Team Palestine. But this particular decision makes absolutely no sense. I mean, no decision that the Biden admin makes sense, but this one even more than usual. Biden's betrayal of Israel is worse than we thought. I don't care if he betrays another country, because we owe no loyalty to any country but our own. Strategically and optically speaking, though, this is a bad idea. It looks like Joe Biden's betrayal of Israel is worse than we thought. According to a new report, Joe Biden has been withholding intelligence from Israel regarding the whereabouts of Hamas leaders and their underground command tunnels. The Biden administration, working urgently to stave off a full-scale Israeli invasion of Rafah, they've failed at that, it seems, as of today, is offering Israel valuable assistance if it holds back, including sensitive intel to help the Israeli military pinpoint the location of Hamas leaders and find the group's hidden tunnels, according to 4 people familiar with the U.S. offers, reports the Washington Post. Now, grain of salt mode, of course, this is coming from WAPO. We've got people familiar with the source. We're not necessarily sure who those are. And so grain of salt mode. Assuming that it's true, though, if Joe Biden and his administration are withholding such intel in order to try to convince them not to invade Rafah, it just shows another massive logistic failure because they've already done so. They went into Rafah already. They're pounding targets literally as we speak, but they also took over the crossing in Rafah. And the Biden administration had to move back. They had to bend knee effectively and say, well, we know that we told you not to go into Rafah, and you went into Rafah, but it's a very limited incursion. It's only at this border station. You're just trying to secure the aid or whatever you're doing. And so it's not a big, no harm, no foul. It's not a big thing. We'll keep sending aid. We're going to make it conditional. Please don't go into Rafah. We'll give you the artillery if you don't go in. What's the first thing that would happen if the Biden administration frees up that weapon shipment to Israel? They're going to go into Rafah and they're going to use the weapons. Because Netanyahu already vowed to his people, and in that part of the world, it matters. If you promise something, you better carry through. He promised to go into Rafah. And not just, hey, we're going to bomb some things in Rafah and evacuate some civilians, but we're going to do a ground invasion. He's already promised this. The Biden administration is run by morons who don't seem to understand that in the United States, if you make a deal and then call it off, you don't get beheaded for it. They don't seem to understand the nuance there. Tony the Greaser, sup cats and chicks. Brock Sampson, 71. If Trump wins, what's to be said about the deep state's power? Your thoughts? Well, it will have diminished somewhat, and that'll be a good thing. It already has, but it will have diminished further. They'll try everything they can do to block him, to prevent him from governing effectively. Whether or not they're successful on some major campaign promises remains to be seen. Holden Sneedmeyer. Zelensky's elected term ends on the 21st, and Mr. Petro Poroshenko has never gotten over his electoral loss to the comedian. Zell better leave Ukraine while he can. Have a good day, Tarl. Thank you. Yeah, that'd probably be a good idea. Tasmanaw, I think Trump may deliberately try to get arrested for violating the gag order, at least reserving the possibility. He isn't trying to have it lifted. Yeah, I know. They unsuccessfully petitioned for that, and he has run up right against the edge of violating the gag order over the last week. So we'll see what happens. I think that he would be happy if he was put in jail. Can you imagine the free publicity? The man behind the screen. Good morning, Sticks and Clankers. Rare morning, or where I actually get to catch the stream live. To celebrate, here, have $1. Keep doing what you do, and I'll keep watching every day. Thank you very much. So yeah, Biden is withholding intel on Hamas from the Israelis. Now, if you're withholding weapons or any form of aid or money or something like that, I mean, it might rankle some people, but I don't really give a shit because we shouldn't be giving them aid and weapons in the first place. When you're withholding intel, though, on specifically targets of a military nature that have attacked foreign soil fairly recently, that's an entirely different animal that you're dealing with. The Biden administration is goddamn insane. They're not making any friends among the campus protesters. They're trying basically in vain to calm them down while also alienating millions of other voters and alienating a key ally within the Levant region. The Biden administration is completely feckless, has no clue what it's doing. Blinken comes out and says, well, get out of Gaza. We'll be talking about that separately in a few minutes. What are you smoking, dude? What exactly is accomplished by any of this grandstanding? Eventually, you're going to send the weapons to Israel. We know that. You're automatically going to do that. And Netanyahu knows that. That's why he's not bellying up to the bar. We know that. We know that you're not going to do anything meaningful against the state of Israel. We also know that you're not going to do anything meaningful to prop up Gaza, even while you keep making these little concessions to try to dry up the campus protests. And that's exactly what it is. We're in election season. We're halfway through May now. We're marching on towards the election. Joe Biden has a big fucking problem because he's managed to alienate millions of young voters that stand solidly with Palestine. He's therefore trying to mop that support back up under the broad umbrella of the Democratic Party. But he's failing, as usual. I mean, let's go Brandon. He's failed at everything else for the most part, so why would we expect any different here? That's the long and short of it. He's just a fucking moron. He and his administration, which he handpicked, the yes men and the advisors that he picked, don't know anything about the diplomacy and the civics of Israel, Palestine, China, Iran, or any of these other countries. They know nothing about it. They only know Western Europe and the North American continent and like Oceania, like Australia or Japan. And even then, they insult the Japanese. Hell, they've insulted several European allies. Last year, they were insulting the Polish and the Hungarians. This administration does not understand diplomacy. It's their biggest weakness, even beyond the economy. The only reason that the economy is judged as more meaningful than the foreign diplomacy crises that we're seeing, rise up over and over again is because the inflation and the cost of living and things like that, they hit closer to home. Ultimately, people should be more worried about things going on overseas because it could lead to World War III, and that wouldn't be comfortable for anyone. But the Biden administration doesn't know what it's doing. The Trump administration did. Trump knew how to deal with these people. He's been in their boardrooms. Crossover maniac. By withholding that information, it's harder for Israel to make strategic strikes against Hamas, forcing them to do blunt force attacks, leading to more civilian casualties. Absolutely. That's the other problem. Strategic strike, you know where this person is, you know where the tunnels are. It's easy to take care of them. They're trying to prolong the war. Rick Rod 95. If a court date falls on September 11th and Trump goes to the 9/11 memorial instead, would the deep state be crazy enough to arrest him on the spot? Yeah, they probably would. I mean, they're batshit. Mike the Wop. After the Trump years are gone, who is going to have the financial ability to put up with the lawfare as they run for office? Somebody will rise up in this place. Tigers are my totem. Sent $5. No comment. Thank you. Everton Plaza. It just kind of feels like he wants to milk it. So the peace accords only come around when Trump gets in office. So it's his problem. Same in Ukraine. Yeah, but Trump would actually get it done. We've seen him do it before with the Abraham Accords and things of that nature. Andrew Van Halen. People in the country don't seem to understand how cutthroat it is in the Middle East. Literally. Yes, exactly. And Biden doesn't understand it either. Tony the Greaser. Revealing my new classic car on Instagram this weekend. Stay cool. Stay confident. Terminator Trav. Handbag, yo, cat hole, irradiated bear. Am I wrong? I mean, we could. Okay. Sounds like Bidenism. Key Lime Warrior, here's a bit of dough for the glory of Clankdom. Thank you very much. BW, what do you think about Trump saying Nikki is not the VP? Well, it means that Nikki is not in consideration for VP. Do you think that will lose him all of our supporters like Fox was saying, or do you think most of those are Democrats? The latter. It's not going to hurt him at all. If anything, it helps boost him among the captive MAGA audience. And a follow-up. Also, what do you think about Merchan denying Trump's attorneys the documents from Scummy Daniels? It's a kangaroo court. We figured that would be the case. Swamp Donkey. It's funny because Biden's cabinet is mostly Jewish admin ever. Almost all of them are Jewish. Why do you think the American Jewish diaspora is overwhelmingly leftist? Self-deprecation and masochism, mostly it seems. FUtube 10.2. Do you think gaming, etc. is a waste of time in life? It's okay to play some video games once in a while. I used to do that, uncommonly. Play a little Skyrim, a little Fallout or something, but lately I've just been too busy. I don't have the time. Cult of Carl RNG podcast. Thanks, Sticks, for Saturday's interviews. Was a blast. Also, thanks, Clank Nation, for showing your comments on the video. Have been making me laugh. Yes, the Cult of Carl. You can go and watch him over on YouTube, or I believe Rumble, actually, too. Before we get to the rest of the news, we'll go to our merch partners. We have pumpkinfirecrafts.us, where you can get bookmarks, keychains, belt chains, amulets, my favorite, engraved spoons, and much more. Not all of which is Clank related, but much of it is. You can use biltongusa.com or antonsusa.com for your delicious biltong. The elk comes very highly rated. The elk biltong is my new favorite. I can't wait to get more of that. Add it to some sour cream and onion dip. Just trust me on this one. Use code STIX for free shipping. wickedneedleembroidery.bigcartel.com, the land of Styx Hexenhammer hats of various kinds and colors. You got the offset logo, you got the central logo with Styx Hexenhammer 666 below it, and much more. Heritage Heirloom Seed Company.com, home of the seed survival bucket. Most of the seeds that I got out back are from Heritage Heirloom, a few from Johnny's and a few others, but mostly from them. And also the Styx Hexenhammer soap box, where you can get the cedar, blueberry, and clove scented soap with the limited edition wrap with the Styx Hexenhammer Ouroboros. And trust me, it's worth it. Gives a good lather. The soap will last you a while. And they've also got the fruity slices and one other that's in there, along with some other toiletries. websterswares.com/Styx-wares, where you can get beanies, jackets, metal spoons, so don't kill the turtles, and much more. You can also get Trump merchandise from them, like the flag behind me. They've got other merch available as well. Jamandbean.com, that is JAMNbean.com, the home of Styx Hexenhammer endorsed coffee, namely the Costa Rica blend, as well as various herbal teas. You know, you could use a little bit of chamomile once in a while. I sucked down some last night and it floored me. I actually got a few hours of sleep. I'm a chronic insomniac, so it definitely helps. And finally, mtpew.com. That is mtpew.com, where you can get ammunition, yes, from Bearded Grizzly. They've got range brass, and they've got newly manufactured ammo. You've got 9, you've got 40 Smith & Wesson, 45, 5.56, 223, and various others available now. Let's see. Apache, U.S. Jews are leftist because Jews started the modern left in the U.S. The Frankfurt School were mainly Jews, and cultural Marxism comes from them as well. Yeah, well, don't underestimate the ability of other groups of people to endorse Marxist economics as well. And look at Antifa. I don't see a lot of Jews there. I see mostly just bored white suburban gated community kids. Jason Lane, Tim Pool reporting on how Texas and some other states being pumped full of new voter registrations, 125,000 a week, could flip the election if true. What are your thoughts? Texas won't flip. Don't worry about Texas. Keep your eye on the prize with the swing states, mainly. Let's see. Swamp Donkey. Also, did you see the cop murder the USAF airman? Yeah, I talked about that a few days ago. The guy answered the door and got mag dumped. It was the same department that had the Acorn incident. I know. And it's rather sad. And some people are still apologizing for it. It's like, okay, it's legal to carry a gun in your house. No warrant has been shown to you. No command to drop the gun has been issued. You come to the door with your gun pointing down, and then you just get greased. That's unacceptable. It's cold-blooded murder. And I don't care what anyone says about it. Now we'll talk about Eurovision. I know that some people have a problem with that. They think it's cringe. And generally speaking, I would agree. But I wanted to show you this song. Link in the description, not archived. It's a YouTube link by Joost. Actually, the Netherlands entry into Eurovision. It's called Ome Robert. Actually, I think this one was a song to his parents, actually. Music video is completely off the chain. I mean, I barely know how to interpret it, but it's funny. You should listen to it. Take the link in the description to Joost's song there. He was disqualified from Eurovision right during the finals. A few hours before they had the final performances, he was disqualified. Why? Because he was being followed around and harassed by paparazzi and allegedly made a threatening comment to them. In the end, probably we'll find out there was no threatening comment actually made. And I think I know why. Europapa, which is a song I don't particularly like. I like this song and some of the others that he's done. Europapa is just, it doesn't do it for me. I like weirder shit like this, Ome Robert. And I think they disqualified him with the excuse that he threatened someone, again, without any video evidence or anything like that, because they were afraid that he would win. The Netherlands has a reputation in Europe as being like the least politically correct in Western Europe because they still have Zwarte Piet. They still, so literal blackface after a fashion. I've made a video about that before, defending Zwarte Piet and saying, okay, It has to do with paranormal, Christmas time, sort of almost fairy-like and demonic forces. It's not, they have a story about Sinterklaas having a bunch of helpers from Morocco coming over to deliver the presents, or chimney sweeps in some accounts. But I see it as more of a paranormal thing, and more like, elves, effectively. And they just happen to have soot all over them. I don't consider it racist, and I've defended the Dutch on this token. Don't throw away your traditions, because once you start doing that, once you bend knee once, they'll expect you to bend knee more times. And so pretty soon Sinterklaas will be racist too, because he's white. Cheese will be racist. Haring will be racist because, this black fisherman existed 500 years ago and got enslaved or something like that. Don't ever bend in your cultural traditions. Keep to them. Keep practicing them. Tell anyone who tells you not to fuck off. I think that they disqualified him because they were afraid that he would win. In the end, they gave it to Switzerland. And that's because they were trying to punish the Netherlands, because it's not a politically correct culture. If Americans would only go to Holland for like a couple of months, cultural immersion, and hear the things that people say and see the way in which people act, they would understand bullshit. The United States is more politically correct, even in red areas, than the goddamn Netherlands. And that is the truth. Just like with the lockdowns, the Netherlands took it far less seriously than even the more free parts of the United States. Masks, it's optional. Nobody gives a shit. You go into the HEMA and get your HEMA Wurst. Nobody's going to tell you to mask. Nobody cares. They're not paid enough to care. BW Sticks, if the Dems don't want to be the only party that can win, why are they trying so hard to flip Texas? Reps would never win again without it. Yeah, unless they flip New York. I think that New York flipping red is more likely than Texas flipping blue, actually, in the indefinite future. So yeah, go to the Netherlands. See how politically correct it is. Supposedly Europeans are effete and politically correct, and they're cucked and stuff like that. I will admit the Netherlands is very cucked on weapons laws, for example. That much is definitely true. And it is a high-tax society, all things considered, although the business tax rate remains low to keep unemployment low. But as far as the cultural, like the CRT, cultural Marxism in general, pretty much absent, actually, from the Netherlands. It's considered a laughingstock. It's a mockery. I saw a few Antifa stickers, for example, in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam and in Enschede. Go across the border into Germany and let me know what you see. Go to Münster, for example, and get out of the train station. Go a couple blocks. What do you see? Literal Antifa reading room. I'm not shitting you. It's literally there. That's what it's called. With a bunch of hippie scribblings out front, and right next to a small street lined with shopping carts, actually, as a makeshift, I guess, vehicle barrier. There's heroin needles and trash and everything else, and the homeless and, the usual haunts that Antifa would live in. You don't see that in the Netherlands so much now, do you? A very politically incorrect group of people. Thank goodness. Feel great among the Dutch. Very much like the old-timey hillbillies in Vermont or something like that. You're not going to find so much communist action there as you will in Germany. Hell, even Germany is not the worst of them. Can't even imagine what it's like in Spain at this point. But yeah, listen to that song by Joost, Ome Robert. It's the music video for it's fucking hilarious. I've watched it a dozen times at this point. Really great music. And he hates the legacy media. That might be the other point on which he was disqualified. He's come out repeatedly and he avoids interviews. When he gets them, he harasses the person and berates them and talks about media unfairness and how he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit about Facebook posts and stuff. I like him. I think he's pretty cool. Webster's Wares. Good morning, Clankers from Endicott, Washington. Free shipping using code STICKS for 25% off your entire order at websterswares.com. Custom Trump and Sticks merch now available. Wasted Bonehead, good morning from the grave. I'm so proud of you, Sticks, supporting a deceased candidate for Vermont governor. Well, I mean, Phil Scott's mind has been deceased for a long time. He's completely brain dead, so I figure I might as well vote for the actual skeleton. Write in Fred Tuttle if you happen to be in the state of Vermont. Most of you Vermonters will probably know who that is. Yeah, I mean, Fred Tuttle's skeleton would do a better job as governor by far. Joel Castillo, chat, I live in Southern California. How does one sell jury nullification to leftoids and Mexicans? Just put up some billets about jury nullification and what it means. and then advise people not to tell anyone that they know what it is, because otherwise we'll run out of people qualified for a jury pool. The unintended, oh yeah, Sticks here spinning the top 40, including that #1 hit, Don't Go Evicting My Love From Your Heart by the Landlords. Oh, this is a crazy one. When I saw this, I was like, what the fuck is going on? It's like a reversal of typical U.S. policy. I don't care so much, but optically speaking, rather poor. Blinken delivers strongest public rebuke of Israel yet. Get out of Gaza. Blinken also directly addressed the U.S. withholding high payload bombs to Israel. During a pair of TV interviews, Blinken said the United States wants Israeli forces to get out of Gaza amid what he described as a horrible loss of life of innocent civilians. Partially agree. I mean, anytime that a civilian dies, it's bad. Although, is the United States not calling the kettle black when it rants about another country killing civilians? Pretty sure we killed a lot of them in Iraq and Afghanistan. Plenty of those died. He also said Israel's tactics in the war have failed to neutralize Hamas and could create a power vacuum in the Palestinian territory. So here's the truth and the lie. The truth is that fundamentally the second part of his statement is correct. Israel has failed so far to neutralize Hamas. As we talked about earlier, though, if the United States is deliberately withholding intel on Hamas officials and Hamas tunnels from Israel as an impetus to get them to get out of Rafah, don't you think if they had that intel, it'd be a little bit easier to conduct targeted strikes and kill fewer civilians, #1? That's one part of his problem. And eliminate Hamas, #2? I don't think that anyone really has a problem with eliminating Hamas. We care about civilian casualties in Gaza. I don't want to see a bunch of little kids starve to death or get cholera or go hungry or anything like that. Women and children, or men for that matter, going without food, going without clean water. I want peace in the world. I want peace in Gaza and everywhere else. We need more peace. We've had scant little of it over the last couple of years. But that being said, if you can go after the Hamas officials and rout them out so that Palestine can be vacated because Hamas is basically a shell of its former self, why would you withhold that specific intel from the Israeli authorities? I mean, supposedly they could then use the weapons we do give them, rout Hamas leadership. Hamas no longer has an organizational capacity. War is over. Netanyahu has achieved his goals. They can cordon off Gaza with their no-go zone and then vacate. And Israel will be secure, double secure now. They won't have a problem with paraglider incursions. The people of Palestine can hopefully rebuild, although they'll need an enormous amount of aid to do so. This is the opposite of what the Biden administration is doing. Instead, it's prolonging the conflict, telling them to get out of Gaza without creating a roadmap by which that's even feasible, politically speaking, and prolonging the war, ensuring that more civilians die. I feel sorry for the Palestinians and the Israelis in the civilian capacity. Can't even imagine what it's like being over there at the moment. And then the leader of the free world supposedly is a goddamn grinning vegetable who has Adderall face on a regular basis. And they have to trust in him to broker negotiations? Or Blinken? Have you heard Blinken speak on a regular basis? He's clueless. He often doesn't know how to answer basic questions, basic bitch questions that I could answer to the press on foreign policy, or that many of you could answer. He's clueless. Does he even get regular updates on what's going on in the Middle East? Methinks probably not. He probably skips it. He goes and snorts cocaine instead or something like that. Blinken is a massive shame, leading to the death of tens of thousands of civilians on both sides of the border and the suffering of hundreds of thousands of more. It's retarded, and he is retarded. Webster's Wares, Sticks, we sent you a package this morning. Here's a beanie for Tim Pool when you go, the fire starters you wanted, and 2 new custom Trump beanies to show off. Thank you very much. Yes, next time I'm on Timcast, I'll have to give him a Sticks X and Hammer beanie. I don't know if he'll wear it, but maybe he can frame it or put it in his collection. I'll give it to him anyway because it'll be funny. And a follow-up, Clanker the other day wanted a Clanker Garden Club hoodie made. We started designs for them this weekend, hoping to have them perfected and out by the end of summer for fall planting and harvest. Interesting. That sounds cool. Cam2425IA, shouldn't the goal be everyone knows about jury nullification? Yes, but if you are queried on whether you know about it and you say, yeah, I know about jury nullification, you ain't getting picked for the jury. The whole goal is to know that it exists and then not let on that you know it exists. By the way, scrub your internet footprint after you learn about what jury nullification is, because they might do a deep dive if they have to, and you don't want to get found guilty of contempt of court or perjury or something like that. Jury nullification is the idea that a person can be guilty, but they're found not guilty because the law in and of itself is unlawful. So, for example, let's say that I'm on a jury in the state of Vermont. Somebody's hauled in, they have 50-round drums for their AR-15. Under Vermont law, those are illegal. They're not supposed to have them. Do I believe that the law in and of itself is legal? No, I disagree with its legality. If I'm on that jury, I will refuse to find them guilty, 100%. And the reason why is because the law shouldn't exist in the first place. It countermands the Constitution, including the Constitution of the state of Vermont. I would never be willing to find them guilty. I don't care if they have them dead to rights. There was a famous case here in Rutland of jury nullification. I don't know the full details, and so I can't vouch for whether this was a proper usage or whether this lady was just, well known around town. People liked her and decided to let her off. She walked in the police station and she attacked the officer on duty at the desk. We have footage of it. We had audio of it. We have witnesses to it. She was guilty. What happened? She was found not guilty. I don't know the exact reason why, but she was found not guilty. Clearly she was. She assaulted the officer. She did so without provocation. The idea, I think, was that there was some personal beef and that people in the area just said, I'm not going to find my neighbor guilty because, he had it coming. He was an asshole or something like that. I probably walked off the job afterwards and said, fuck this shit. I don't want to be at that desk again. I've learned my lesson. In not all cases should jury nullification be utilized. If you think someone's guilty and it's a legit crime, like they raped somebody, they're trafficking kids, they sold drugs to 10-year-olds or something, find them guilty if there's the evidence to do so. But if somebody is clearly guilty, but the crime shouldn't be a crime, you simply say, well, I don't think they're guilty. What? Say the other 11 jurors, but here's video of them admitting to it. I just don't think they're guilty. I don't accept their admission. I think that was coerced. But here we've got them on camera doing the crime. Well, what if it's someone that looks like them? They don't have an alibi or anything, but maybe they were a couple of blocks away at the time or something like that. That's what you should do. Swamp Donkey, how would you reform the tax system? By eliminating half of them at least. I have heard arguments for a VAT versus flat tax. What would Styx Hexenhammer have? I would keep the current tax code minus the property tax system. I would eliminate and abolish that completely and just lower taxes. Well, we can slash regulations and government bureaus and public spending and things like that and make up the difference. So no harm, no foul. It's not like the money that we spend on the roads go to the roads anyway, so it doesn't matter. So yeah, jury nullification is a very good idea. It ended prohibition. A lot of people think, well, prohibition ended because people wanted booze. Yes, but that's half the story. Prohibition ended because the gangsters that were making and distributing the booze were more liked than the G-men. The government was very much disliked. People wanted to drink booze, and more people were becoming alcoholics because they couldn't get treatment for their booze addiction because of prohibition. So they decided to start nullifying juries. And so in some cases, look what happened with Al Capone. What did they get him in on the end? Was it killing somebody? No, he got found not guilty. Was it bootlegging? No. Was it trafficking in drugs? No. Was it weapons charges? No, they got him on tax evasion. They had to get him in on tax evasion, let him die of syphilis in his cell. It was jury nullification. They let him off a dozen times. They did this with other gangsters as well. The mafia skated more often than not because they would nullify the verdict. They would say, well, I just don't find him guilty. Well, why? They're clearly guilty. Here's a picture of them literally bootlegging taken by one of the G-men. Yeah, but I don't know if this picture is real. And they would make up whatever excuse they could in order to bounce the case. And they would hang the jury. If they tried to retry it, they would get the same result 9 times out of 10 the second time. So eventually prohibition fell out of favor because it was incapable of actually being implemented. And that's what we should do with the drug war too, and the war on guns. We should nullify every verdict that involves gun crimes that is not a violent crime. So there's no clear-cut victim. They simply had the wrong attachment. They had it in the wrong space. They meant to do nothing wrong. Nullify the verdict. Find them not guilty. Hang the jury. The person in simple possession in some conservative state. They had 1.5 ounces of weed. They're in on felony charges. Who cares? It's weed. Nullify the jury. King of Biltong, good morning from Anton's Meat and Eat. Free shipping for your biltong using code STICKS on www.biltongusa.com and www.antonsusa.com. Get yourself some official Clank meat. Elk and bison are in stock. #Clank Nation. I'm going to need more of that elk, by the way, Anton. That is definitely my favorite at this point. It's even better than the venison. Now we have to go to the polls. Some of these are outliers, you will see. So again, a single poll does not an aggregate make. It's just, this really drags the aggregate in Trump's direction. This is New York Times Siena. Now, keeping in mind that they did both matchups, Trump v. Biden and Trump v. Biden v. RFK v. West v. Stein v. Wasted bonehead, I suppose. Arizona, Trump +6. Georgia, Trump +9. Michigan, Biden +1. That's the one outlier is Michigan. He supposedly has a bit of an advantage in. We'll see about the Dearborn Muslim population and if they punish Biden in the end or not. Nevada, probably the biggest one here. +13 for Donald Trump in the state of Nevada. Pennsylvania +3, Wisconsin +1. That's in the direct matchup. So that's just Trump v. Biden. Let's go to the five-way race. Arizona, Trump +9. Georgia, Trump +8. Biden gets a little bit of an advantage. He's +3 in Michigan, according to that polling. Nevada, +14 for Donald Trump. It may be an outlier, but Christ almighty, it's even if you include the 2 standard deviations, Trump's still like 5 points ahead. Pennsylvania +4 and Wisconsin +1, unchanged. In other words, what I'm telling you is that Trump is ahead in every swing state, and in the latest polling, he's far ahead in 5 of them. We're looking at a situation where I really want more polling from Maine, Virginia, and New Hampshire, because it's looking like the swing states of yesteryear aren't all going to be swing states. This looks like Nevada is going to be off the table. We'll go to the aggregate in general, by the way. We'll go to the, if I can actually get to it, that would probably be a good idea. Sometimes RCP has changed its layout a little bit. And so it's a little bit harder to use than it was before, which I regret. I'm not really fond of that. We'll just go to them all. Usually they have something on the side. Let me see if I can get that. So I have to expand this out, I think. General election, Trump +1.2. Biden's job approval, -17. Here are the aggregates as they stand right now. For Arizona, Trump +5.2. For Georgia, +4.6. For Michigan, still +0.8. It's close. It's about dead even. Nevada, +6.2. North Carolina, +5.4. I don't count that as a swing state at this point. Pennsylvania, +2, and Wisconsin, +0.6. So it looks like Wisconsin and Michigan are going to be the pivot for the swing state results, if nothing else changes. Well, that's disastrous for Joe Biden. That's goddamn terrible. He wishes that North Carolina or even Florida were the pivots, but they don't seem to be materializing in that sense. It's a real big problem. I think that Biden's going to get crushed, actually, in the general election. At this point, actually, I think I'll revise my estimate to a 90+% chance of Donald Trump winning election. Webster's Wares, flat tax of 1%, no gas or other petty taxes, cut nearly all social programs, cut 90% of government jobs. See, you're a hardliner. I'm a moderate. I'll just slash them by 50% and eliminate the property tax and call it a day. Sir Thomas Drake and pay the politicians minimum wage. Yeah, but then they would try to raise the minimum wage, which would upend the economy. Man who received first pig kidney transplant dies. Had nothing to do, by the way, with the fact that it was a pig kidney transplant. This is modern medicine. They're trying to use gene editing in order to reconcile animal parts, which are much more easy to maintain, don't require a person to die or leave their organ to someone or donate it, like a kidney or something, a chunk of their liver. It could create a situation where organ failure is no longer a big deal. You would still have, rejection drugs, although with gene editing, you could probably make it close enough to the person where rejection wasn't a problem. He managed to live for several months, actually, with a pig kidney inside of him. It was genetically edited. Rick Slayman, 62, was suffering with end-stage kidney disease before undergoing the operation in March. Massachusetts General Hospital said on Sunday there was no indication his death was the result of the transplant, which is good. Transplants of other organs from genetically modified pigs have failed in the past, but the operation on Mr. Slayman was hailed as a heroic milestone. In addition to kidney disease, Mr. Slayman, and this is why he died, also suffered from type 2 diabetes and hypertension. That will tax your kidney really quickly. In 2018, he had a human kidney transplant, but it began to fail after 5 years. Following the pig kidney transplant on 16th of March, his doctors confirmed he is no longer needed dialysis after the new organ was said to be functioning well. Xenotransplantation is the transplantation of living cells, tissues, or organs from one species to another. By the way, look up monkey glands and then look up the theory about that and how new experiments have shown, oh shit, you know that discredited Victorian-era operation, taking thin slices of chimpanzee kidneys and testes and putting them on human kidneys? Well, it turns out that it might actually work therapeutically with modern technology and probably actually was of benefit. Sorry about that 100 years of calling you a quack doctor, by the way. I can't remember the name of the doctor. I think it was a Russian doctor pioneered that. MGH said it was deeply saddened at his sudden death and offered condolences to his family. Mr. Slayman's relatives said his story was an inspiration. Yes, indeed. The fact that a person could survive for about 2 months with an organ that's not even human inside of them is a milestone within medicine. We're probably not that many years or decades out from being able to eliminate most forms of organ failure. Imagine that you could lab grow a person's own cultures into a lung, for example, or a heart or something like that. You wouldn't even need transplant rejection drugs at that point. With gene editing, you can use a pig heart or something as a scaffold, and you can pretty much do the same thing. I'm very excited by this because, again, this would be, assuming we perfect it, or nearly so, this will be a huge march in the right direction for making sure that people who are otherwise healthy can live long and otherwise healthy lives. You know, the fact that they shot their liver doesn't mean that they don't deserve a second chance, or, they got heart failure for some genetic purpose. Well, now we've grown you a heart that's equivalent to your heart as it was when you were a 20-year-old. We can put it in your chest. No drugs needed, other than antibiotics, of course, after the surgery, and you'll live a normal life. You'll gain another 30, 40 years. You'll be healthy. We could reinvigorate people who are old and give them more time to be productive, to be able to do their hobbies and things like that. Although I suspect that the government would just use that as a reason to extend the retirement age. So, there's always a dark lining in every silver cloud. Opinionated Junkie. Ready for inflation numbers? I don't think anybody's ready for those. No, I'd rather not even look at them. I'll look at them tomorrow if they're out. Mike the Wop, this clanker appreciates the science news. Yes, indeed. We've got a little bit more of it as well. That should definitely be something that's experimented on. Although, I would say, it would be better to figure out how to take people's own tissue cultures, especially when they're young. So take tissue from their heart, stem cells, whatever, their liver and so forth. The most common, like the heart, liver, and kidneys especially, and lungs to an extent, if they're a smoker especially, or live in a polluted area like LA or New York City, big city. And then you can culture later on their genetic material and grow them a new organ. You don't need transplant drugs. The transplant's genetically identical to the thing that was taken out. You took out their heart and you put in another one. Other than being younger and more vibrant and healthy, it's the same exact thing. Genetically, it's identical. The ability to clone human tissue would be the holy grail of many elements of science. Imagine you're in a car crash. You're paralyzed. But now they can grow you a whole new body practically. Well, we'll grow the nerves and everything, reattach your legs, and you'll be able to walk again in a month. Perfectly fine. You'll need some rehab or something like that. It would be a good idea. Webster's Wares. Every time I pay taxes and I see 100 billion go to wars, I become more of a hardliner. Agreed. If it was going towards sheltering the cold, penniless, and poor, I wouldn't have a problem with paying the taxes that I'm paying. Most of it goes to bombing people or to paying off debt. Swamp Donkey. Do you know of any cool, spooky Skinwalker stories or games? Look up Skinwalker Ranch on YouTube, and you can find a million things about that. I'm not too into that because the Skinwalker Ranch thing is quite clearly bullshit, in my opinion. Horse shit, bullshit, pig shit, every other form of shit. Suddenly, there aren't enough babies. The whole world is alarmed. Birth rates are falling fast across countries with economic, social, and geopolitical consequences. I would say rather, it's caused by these things. It's caused by people being blackpilled. It's caused by the Me Too movement. It's caused by people being economically pressed, so they don't think that they can support more than 1 or 2 kids at maximum, and many of them don't think they can set aside time for that. If you're working a shift and a half, flipping burgers in order to afford your rental pod with 5 roommates, you probably aren't in the socioeconomic position to have a kid, ultimately. It's like I have a daughter. I waited strenuously until I had the ability to make ends meet before having a child. And I did that because I didn't want to raise a child in poverty, ultimately. I mean, I understand the basic premise. I would say, though, that if you're alarmed about birth rates falling, there's really one way to solve it. Reduce the bureaucratic burden on your population, let the free market take hold, and then tell people to have sex. Tell them to fuck. You know, you raise your woman's fertility if you give her oral first, by the way. You know, get her off, wait till ovulation or something like that. Learn how to use your tongue and then stick your dick inside. Ta-da! That's where babies come from. Now, some people are less fertile than others. But, you know, if you don't succeed at first, then try again. Sex is fun. I often wonder, some people appear not to understand that premise. And it's like, you know, the oldest thing that man has been involved with, animals around you are humping constantly, and you've got hang-ups about fucking. I don't quite understand that myself. Webster's Wares. Sticks bringing real science news to us compared to government trying to scare people with bird flu. I can't say the last word there on a live stream. Yes, indeed. Yeah, you need to, if you want babies, penis goes in vagina. By the way, I know that gender is nowadays considered malleable, but if you put it in the other hole, the odds of pregnancy are fairly low. And if you put it in the other hole and the other person has a Y chromosome, the chances of pregnancy are 0. So, you know, just keep that in mind. There are guidelines to making babies. You need a person with a Y chromosome, a person without a Y chromosome. Penis goes in the vagina and you have sexual intercourse and it feels great. Ta-da. That's literally all you have to do. It's the most simple thing in the world. Some people claim that they can't do that. I find it funny, going back to what I said earlier when I first summed up this article at the beginning. I find it funny, like when I talk to white supremacists or, you know, the people that believe in white replacement theory, and I'm like, well, I've got a solution for you. And they're like, well, what's the solution? How can we perpetuate the white race? Have more white babies. Go fuck a white chick. Oh my God, I can't do that. I'm like, okay, is it because you're impotent or you're gay? So you don't want to do that? Or, you know, do you have some other like problem, a micropenis or something like that? And it can probably still work. You know, you just have to finger it inside afterwards, I guess, or something like that. Have more sex. Sex is fun. Vaginas are great. You know, get used to it. Otherwise, your lineage will disappear. It will become a genetic dead end, and your ancestors will frown upon you as the entire lineage, after billions of years of evolution, suddenly terminates. Just, you know, little foreplay and then an orgasm. What's wrong with that? I don't understand. And then the final news story, talking about cunnilingus, by the way. Lesbians reach orgasm more often than heterosexual women. Our sex scripts explain why. According to a study, they actually had to study why women would be better at pleasuring women than many men would. Well, there's a simple explanation. They know what women want. They know how their bodies feel when they're engaged in sexual activity. Pretty cut and dry now, isn't it? Oh, you mean women are more likely to understand that clitoral stimulation is more important than somebody who doesn't have a clitoris? I never possibly would have guessed that that was the case. Indeed, it is. Some people don't, again, understand this. I never had that problem myself. But, you know, some men, apparently, they're not into giving head. I never understood that either. It's like, you don't like to go down? Why? You have a problem, apparently. I never understood it. Yes, eat pussy and save the planet by making more babies. Ta-da! I've given you a simple explanation and solution. The thing is, when you give somebody a simplistic explanation of a situation and a really, really easy solution, so penis goes in vagina, they'll reject it out of hand. No, I can't do that because X, Y, Z. I can't do that because I can't find a girl. Yes, you can. Just fucking try. I can't do that because, well, I'm gay. Well, I mean, take one for the team. You know, you can still knock a chick up. You may not like it sexually or romantically, but, you know, if you really want to have a biological child, you can actually do that. You do not need to adopt like certain individuals within politics like Chasen and Pete Buttigieg. It's not necessary. You are capable, presumptively, of orgasming. You are probably not impotent. You may have a lower or higher sperm count. Well, then you might have to do it more or less often. Just wait till the right time of month. What's the problem? Have kids. The solution is staring you in your face. Have more sex. Have a goddamn orgy or something like that. What's the goddamn problem? Some people want to dehumanize the earth and get rid of human beings. Well, I don't want the population to explode to the point where we're in rat paradise. I do think that having people in the world is kind of nice. It's kind of nice to have other people around. Some of them not necessarily, but generally speaking, having humans in the world can be a good thing. We're the only truly intelligent species on the planet. So I am a natalist in that sense. I do believe in responsible population maintenance. That is, that I don't want it to double from what it is now, because we'll all be crowded in like Calcutta. But I also don't want the extinction of mankind or its significant debilitation due to a regress of its population beyond its ability to sustain itself and its ability to extract resources and advance technology and things like that. So yeah, go ahead and breed. Make sure that you've got your shit together. So, you know, let's say you're dirt poor, so you are working double shift at Wendy's just to put a hamburger on your plate. Maybe you want to try to wait. In the meantime, though, I've already given you another suggestion, which is drop a vice, build a skill, try to retain money, build yourself up, become healthier, do the things that you need to do to make yourself a better person, especially to you men out there, which is 80% of the people watching this video. Become more saleable, become more mateable, and then go forth and sow your wild oats. That's all you have to do. And no, it's not too late when you're in your 30s. No, not even remotely. I waited till I was, I'd be 33, basically, to have my daughter. I'm glad that I waited. If I had done it before, it would have been a problem. I didn't have the money. I didn't have the means. And I want to make sure that the next generation is also taken care of. You can too. You just have to believe in yourself. If you drop one vice, let's say that you're a smoker or something, you know how much cigarettes cost right now? Well, that's going to be a big savings. And you get an expanded child tax credit. As soon as Trump is reelected, he'll extend that, by the way. Biden wants to let it lapse. So that'll dissuade people from having more kids. God, the Chinese now have a 3-child policy. They had a 1-child policy that was stymieing their population growth. Then they did a 2-child policy to get people to breed more, and it didn't work. So now they said, okay, have a 3rd. It's not working, though, because they don't encourage their citizens to build up their skills. They encourage their citizens to be cogs because they're a bunch of commies. They'll fall before the United States falls, by the way, as long as people do their duty, which is to have fucking sex. Put your penis in a vagina and have an orgasm. What the fuck more is, what the hell is easier than that, dude? Webster's Wear, Sticks, Eat Pussy and Save the Planet beanies coming soon. Yeah, I mean, well, you got to do more than that. You've got to set up so your kid has a nice life and everything like that, but it doesn't take as much effort as some people would believe. You know, it's just the way that it is. I mean, your ancestors, they all got laid. You know, some of you haven't gotten laid. I mean, I assure you that you can. You can find somebody that you'll be attracted to, that'll be attracted to you. And for you boys out there, that'll put up with your bullshit. That's important. Trust me. People have to deal with my bullshit too. I can be a little bit on the weird and eccentric side. I fully admit to this. It's a secret to my success. Yeah, the man behind the screen. I'd actually buy that beanie. Yes, pussy beanie not coming soon, actually, but it would be funny. Yeah, just fornicate, you know? That's the name of, that's where babies come from. Some people didn't get proper sex ed. They think that babies are delivered by the stork. It's just like left-wingers think that food just grows on the shelves of the grocery store. It came from a farm. It came from dirty things, and so did you. You came from your parents doing the dirty. I don't consider it dirty, but it is a colloquial term, you know. Just have more sex. Have orgasms. Eat out. 69. Do whatever gets you off, you know. A little bit of golden showers here, a little bit of poop play there, if that's what you're into. But whatever causes you to mate, that's evolution, guiding you to create the next generation. Yes, you do need a strong father and also a strong mother in a household. Not everyone's built for that. Well, then, you know, others can compensate. You know, somebody has only one kid or none. That's fine. Somebody else had 3 or 4. But in general, you know, mate, reproduce. It's the easiest thing that you can possibly do in your life. The raising of the kid may not be easy, but the act itself, creating the kid, is really, really self-explanatory. The stork works for Vlasic Pickles. Yes, indeed. I've seen this. Vlasic is pretty good. Clausen is better, I will say. Not just a string. Women need to pick better men, and governments need to stop strangling everyone. The latter would go a long way towards a breedable population. Make people more self-reliant. Don't expect men not to be masculine. Don't ask us to not get dirty out in the dirt and wander around in the woods and shoot guns and stuff. Let us be manly. Let women be, let them be women. Let them put on the makeup and dress in pretty colors and stuff like that. Let them be women. You know, is it really a better world since we started cracking down on those things? And I am not saying this as a conservative or a fuddy-duddy from the 50s. I'm saying this as a relatively young millennial individual raised up in progressive land. What were things better back then, or are they better now as far as many things go? Other than technology and medicine, I think things were better back then with traditional gender norms and shit like that. And I am no Christian or anything like that. I'm telling you my opinion. By the way, please send no more super chats. We're running up over an hour. The Nerd Wire. I practice having kids with my wife all the time. It's fun. Yes, indeed. Crossover Maniac. Science has a reproducibility verification crisis, most likely being the result of fake studies where they have the conclusion before the studies begin. Joel Castillo. 5 likes and I will name my firstborn son Styx Hexenhammer 666. Yeah, don't give him such a name. Name him something cool like Eric or Olaf or some cool pagan name. Drake. Drake's a cool name. Damien. You know, stuff like that. You know, I have a daughter, but if I had a son, I'd lean towards names like that. Empowered names, you know. Stuff like that. Anyways, I'm going to go offline. I thank you all for showing up. The over 4,000 people at peak, thank you for listening to me talking about orgasms and things of that nature. I'll be back tomorrow with more news. Keep in mind, again, 5:30 p.m. today, I will go live with the quartering. So that's later. That's in some hours. And we'll be doing the show. I'm his co-host Mondays and Wednesdays. After that, though, I'm pretty much going to conk out. But I will be back tomorrow with more news. Maybe we'll have some more fun topics, talking about penises and things of that nature. Some people get weirded out when you talk about sexuality. I myself do not have that problem. I consider it amusing more than anything. That's about all. Peace out.